Welcome. I wanted to temper the previous video where I was quite critical of a Harvard professor with an appreciation of a paper. So I'm doing this next video in that spirit, a sort of critical offsetting if you want. It's a paper by Rachael, which I came across a few years back, and I thought this is a lovely paper, I really enjoyed it, and so all I'm doing here today is showcasing it. I'd urge you, if you're interested, to follow up the reference and read the paper and make your own mind up. But it's another of those papers which crosses over boundaries. It's very much her work's grounded in the health service, and her passion is obviously for the health service, but she's also looking at a concept of organisational silence, which is very much to do with organisational change. So I fear sometimes when we move between those worlds, potential audiences are missed because you're only because you're in two worlds. If that makes any sense. So I'll give you a couple of opening quotes, and they're taken from the page 45 from the abstract, and I'm afraid they're quite heavy given this was meant to be my upbeat moment. NHS is systematically and institutionally deaf, bullying, defensive and dishonest. Very strong words, and Rachael did work in the health service as well as her research being in it, so awfully strong words. She does temper it though, and her message is the NHS needs to embrace the identity of being a listening, learning and honest organisation. So it's important to underline this. She's not critical of the health service and the good work that good people do. It's more a form of organisational change that troubles her, and it's what's troubling me and driving me to do these videos. I do see organisational change as part of our lives. It has been for the decades I've been around, and it will be for decades to come. But there are different ways in which organisations can change, and she makes in this paper a passionate plea for another way of making change happen. So she's passionate about health service and service delivery, and as a layperson outside the health service I am, this is not a critique of what's going on in the NHS as such. It's more how change is being managed and beliefs that are being promoted which are potentially problematic to the service delivery everyone cares about. As I say, you need to read the paper for yourself, but to give you a flavour of the structure, she starts off with an introduction, and again it's quite strong, her introduction, in that she goes back over some of the failings in the health service in this country. The Bristol Royal Infirmary, many of you will be aware of, and equally the Mid Staffordshire Trust failings, and she touches on the Francis report of 2010 and 2013. I read those Francis reports. They were out in the public domain, I'm sure they still are, and I'd urge anyone, regardless of what sector you're into, have a look at them. Francis acts as an advocate for those who lost their lives, and also those who've been touched by the loss of lives. So it's well worth a read. But she's in that sort of space of beginning to speak out, to blow the whistle, if you like. And it doesn't sit well. I see a lot of things out on Twitter and in the media about it's all good here in the NHS, and I wish it was, I really do. But I don't know if it helps anyone's cause, these sort of mantras of let's be positive. I just, as I've got older, I began to think, I think they do us a disservice, and we should have the courage, if we can, to speak out in any way we can. She then gets into the concept of organisational silence, but she invokes some paper from 2000 by Morrison and Milliken around the concept of organisational silence, which is a fascinating idea. It seems blindingly obvious, but we need to talk more about it. It's the idea that professionals go quiet in times of change, they keep their heads down and just get on with it. The bloody-minded resistance is sometimes depicted in the more practically orientated change literature. Doesn't really capture this organisational silence, so she's flagging it up. she's then saying that it's out there, and what's lovely about this paper is she takes that concept from Morrison and Milliken, and she gives us some examples across the world where organisational silence has been encountered in healthcare settings. She cites Milliken, who I did an appreciation of in one of the previous videos, and that was the reason I'm doing this video today. I was thinking, there's that Rachael paper, I want to plug that. And nicely, when I went through her paper again, I was reminded that she does cite Milliken, so there's a mutual respect. And the arguments they put are different arguments, but they're closely aligned, let's say. She then goes on and signposts to us that organisational silence can be detected in the health service research literature. It's out there. It's a story that's rarely told because it's not as upbeat as It's All Good here, but it's out there if you choose to look at the literature. Her paper benefits then, it's not just scholarship. She actually did some research in the health setting, and in particular she did interviews and focus groups and developed a model around organisational silence in the health service. In this short video I can't do justice to it, but if you are interested, have a look and again make up your own mind. And then she moves to conclusions, and in a way the conclusions are quite sad. You get the impression she cared about the research, and what comes out of it is quite a damning indictment of what's going on at the moment. Remember that opening line about the problematic nature of the culture within the health service. Power comes strongly through in the conclusions, as it did in the Milliken paper. This idea that power to silence people, but more subtly, power to keep things off the agendas. Partly what's driving me to do these videos is I'm a little bit uneasy with the field of study. I've studied for 30 years. It could be so much more. It could do such a better service to people out there, rather than it being this monetised commodity that some of the big global consultancies have made a fortune out of. Strong words, but this is a strong paper if you choose to read it. And then I just want to take a line from page 62 at the end of the paper. Organisational silence is not a characteristic of a healthy institution, but one of the outward signs of an organisation which is hiding and retreating from reality. An organisation hiding and retreating from reality. Again, I can empathise with that. I see it a lot in organisations where there's a lot of talk about research-informed evidence-based work, but the reality, it's sometimes quite murky. And I've tried to make these videos short, but I could go on for a long time about this paper. But anyway, I've plugged it, I liked it, it gets a thumbs up from Mark, and I hope some of you take the time to read it and draw your own conclusions. And I would finally say, even if your research or your practical interests aren't in the health sector, by looking at this paper you get a lovely sectorally grounded account of the manifestation of organisational silence. So a lovely paper. I'm glad she took the time to do the research. I'm glad she got the paper out there, and I hope this video might get 1 or 2 more people to look at it.